So today we are making tortilla soup. Now I always order tortilla soup whenever I'm in a Mexican restaurant because I love it, and most Mexican restaurants have some version on their menu. Generally, there are similarities in the recipes from place to place. Sometimes the soup is rich and satisfying, and sometimes the soup is bland and kind of disappointing. So I tried to capture all of the characteristics that I really love in this recipe. I knew I wanted a smoky heat quality to the broth, hence the chipotle pepper in the adobo sauce and sambal chili paste, of course, along with the chili powder and cumin and lemon pepper and Worcestershire sauce. The base is a combination of chicken and beef stock and tomatoes. Even though the soup has chicken in it, you won't think of it as just a chicken soup, like a normal chicken soup. Be sure, though, to buy well-sourced organic chicken breasts. Tough chicken meat ruins the recipe. And I'll say that when I've had a great broth, but the chicken is tough, I don't care for this soup. I cannot say enough about homemade corn tortillas. You probably heard about that last week from me. They are simple to make, and I promise you, you'll skip the store-bought tortillas in the future once you make some of your own. So I bought my Tortilla Press right here for $18 and years ago. I usually don't go in for specialty kitchen items, but I consider this thing to be essential. The press always makes perfectly round tortillas, and it's fast. You can, of course, hand roll them if you want to, if you don't want to invest the $18. So my favorite brand of masa harina is Bob's Red Mill brand, and I've tried a number of them. Most stores carry it, or you can order it online, and the flavor and texture is perfect for this. And this is what a bag of that looks like. They have new packaging. We just noticed it seals up. Masa harina. Okay, so let's start with making some tortillas of our own. I'm going to juggle things around here a little bit. I have a lot of stuff here. I have here a cup of masa harina that I already measured out, and I'm going to wear gloves for this part. I'll wear a glove for this part. And this is warm water. On the package, it tells you a kind of a range of warm water to use. I just do it this way. I measure out a cup, which is going to give me roughly 4 tortillas. This depends on what size you make them, but I usually go with a 1/4 cup, and I'll get 4 for sure. And then I just keep adding it in. Adding water in to form the dough. When we were making a lot of tacos, and we used to make a lot of fish tacos for when we were catering, and in the restaurant, we would put them on the menu from time to time. We would make these balls of masa harina that were just huge. I mean, like literally huge. And then we'd wrap them in plastic wrap, let them sit for a while. We're not going to let this rest today, by the way. They do on the package recommend that you do that. 9 times out of 10 when I do this, I'm making them at the last minute, so I never let the dough rest, but you can, and just wrap it up in saran wrap to keep it from drying out and let it rest for an hour or so. And when you're using a press, when I do let it rest, I really can't see any difference in the dough at all. But it's always good to play by the rules, so if you want to do that, go ahead. And you can see now I've got a nice dough. It's got some nice moisture to it. It's hanging together really well. I'm not kneading this for any reason other than to get the dough together, by the way. No gluten being activated or anything like that. Okay, I'm going to call that perfect. All right. So I am going to grab, just for peace of mind, a piece of saran wrap and just put it over the bowl just to keep the air off of this while I'm working. And then we're going to get our tortilla press ready. Done with the water. So you can use parchment paper for this. Some people use saran wrap. I find that what works best is a Ziploc bag. And what I'm going to do is cut the sealing part off of this. And the reason for that is when we press these, the Ziploc is going to go together, and this tends to want to stick together. So if you get rid of it, you won't have that problem. Otherwise, you're always pulling it apart because it seals up, because that's what it's designed to do. Now I'm going to just take my scissors and cut down the side of the bag. Just like that, both sides. I really like the Ziplocs because of the weight of the plastic. It's heavy enough so that you can use it again and again and again, and you don't have to, keep replacing the plastic or the parchment paper. Okay, this opens up like this, and the way this is going to work is we're going to basically push this down and then push this lever down, which is what will totally flatten these out. So you want your crease to be on this back side there. Let's take some of our dough. You can make these any size you want to. I tend to go with a 1/4 cup. If I'm doing tortillas for a taco, like we did last weekend, which is probably, if you're watching this in the cooking club, a very close by video. Will be in the spice and heat section. So anyway, I would press these, and then I roll them out a little bit to make them thinner. But for what we're doing today, where I'm going to cut them in strips and basically add them into the soup, I won't do that. So I don't care how thick they are. What I'm going for is that really delicious corn tortilla flavor actually in the soup. It's like cracking crackers into your soup. So delicious. Okay, so just like that, flattened it a little bit, and then press like that. And here we go, there. Now I'm going to turn my burner on high and heat cast iron pan, no oil, just a dry pan over high heat. And let me just take this one here, set it aside, and while that's heating up, we'll do another one. We used to make these when we were doing fish tacos for catering, and we would always press the tortillas on site because they smell so good, and it's a little bit of theater. So you can think about that if you're doing some sort of a Mexican meal, entertaining. Press your tortillas right before you serve. People will be very impressed, and they'll be nice and warm. Just want to make sure I don't get that near the open flame. Okay, and then here we go again. Good. I can feel that heat coming off there, so let's go ahead and throw this tortilla in, right into the pan like that. And that's going to sit there for about a minute. Now you're not going to see a big change in what the tortilla looks like in the first ones, because this pan, is still heating. The first ones don't usually get too brown on the bottom, but they can get brown spots, which is totally fine. But as they heat, you'll start to see ever so slightly the tortilla will start to raise, and that's how you know it's cooking. So after about a minute, you'll see that happening. You'll know it's cooked on that bottom side, and you can flip it over. It's not too hard to do, and it's really not possible to screw these up. So, because they will cook, in a very, very short period of time. We did some last week, didn't we, right on the grill. We actually pressed these and we laid them right on the grill grate outside on our charcoal grill and cooked them that way, and that was really delicious too. Very smoky. Just get that another little. Okay, let's flip this guy. I'm going to call that good. Flip her over. And you can see I've got a little bit of browning here. Sometimes you'll get more spots, but it's definitely cooked, and I can see that it's raised ever so slightly, and that's what I'm going for. So on the other side, you want to do, again, another 45 seconds to a minute to get it cooked through. I'll set this aside. I think I'll do one more of these just for fun. Let's call that good. Oh yeah, Feels great. Put this in, and this is how I generally do this, is that I kind of have a little factory going here. I'm pressing and I'm cooking and I'm pressing and I'm cooking, and it just kind of goes with the flow. And if you are entertaining and you do it this way, then people can come take their tortilla, and you'll, you know, as it's hot, as you put them on the plate, make their taco or whatever they're doing with it. As far as flour tortillas go, different mixtures, so it's not just corn flour. Let's go ahead and see how this guy is doing. Give him another second. Usually I make my flour tortillas with flour and lard and water, a little bit of salt. That's it. Press them the same way. Sometimes I roll them out if I want them a little thinner, and I cook them exactly the same way. Okay. Let's flip this guy. Beautiful. Okay, you see now I'm getting a little bit of, maybe you can't see that, can you? Push it over. Now you can see it. A little bit of charring on there. That's totally good. I actually like that a lot. And I think we have definitely enough for our soup, so I'll set this aside. We'll just cook this last tortilla. There we go. And here is the last one. And then let's get rid of the Tortillas Press while that's doing that. Another great use for your cast iron pan. Just can't live without them, can we? And again, I can see this is raising ever so slightly as that heat cooks it through, and it smells like just wonderful, like cornbread. Let's flip her. There we go. Now that pan's hot. Too bad your job is done. Okay, so let me, I'm going to take this guy off. Cut the heat on that. And then we will get on to making our tortilla soup. Okay, so we have a pan right here. A little bit of prep to do. We need, first of all, we're going to put some canola oil in the pan. Let's go ahead and do that. 2 tablespoons worth of canola oil. I'm using a larger pan for this, largely so that you can see. You could use something that's smaller, but I really like the white background on this, so I thought that would make it a little easier for you to see what's going on. I'll wait to turn that on, though, until I get this onion done. So I have here 1 medium-sized onion, and my knife is right over here. I'll be right back. There we go. I'll use this one. Let me just cut this down like that. I already peeled it. Now, this is going to be in the base of the soup, but I don't mind, in this soup in particular, having the onion be a little larger. So we're not mincing it, we're doing just a nice dice. I'll flip that forward. Let's see. There we go. Put that in there. Ooh, these are strong onions. Wow. My eyes are going to be watering in a second here, I can tell. Again, we can just a nice horizontal slice on that to help with our dice, and then we're working with the architecture of the onion. Cutting those slices that way, and then when we go off the end here, we get this nice diced onion. So as easy as it can be. There we go. Check this. Sometimes in that little end part, it sticks together a little bit. You might want to run your knife through that. There, I think that's good. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my oil on here. I'm going to go for a medium heat. While that is heating up, let's do a couple of cloves of garlic. Those I've already peeled as well too. These are pretty big cloves, and they kind of split in half when I was peeling them. Now for the garlic, I really do want it minced. I want it to distribute evenly. So I'm going to take a little bit of time on that, make sure I really do have it minced. All the flavor distributes evenly. Let's see how this is doing. Oh yeah. Might bring that down a little bit. There we go. Let's give that a stir. For this burner, low is medium. So they're all different, aren't they? Okay, a little bit more mincing. Wanted to get that heat down so it wasn't too much when I put my garlic in. That's the reason behind it. Okay, so I also have here, just keep adding to the mix, 1 chipotle pepper in adobo sauce. And what I like to do with these guys, first of all, I am going to wear gloves for this for sure because it's hot. And it has some of that sauce clinging to it. You buy these canned. Always end up with extras. I mean, you get, probably, it's a little can, but you get probably 10, 12 chipotle peppers in there. So you want to make sure you keep the sauce with it. They don't come with a ton of sauce, but they do come with some sauce. And you're not removing seeds or anything like that. You're going to put the whole thing in there. But I like using a little cutting board for it because then my larger cutting board stays fairly clean. And then I can just toss this aside until I'm ready to clean it. Again, you want to chop this up fairly fine because you want it to distribute throughout. It really is going to lend that wonderful smoky flavor to your beautiful broth. And let's toss that in. That, get rid of that. And then we have some green chilies. This is a 4.5 ounce can. They're already diced. You don't have to do anything. You just don't drain them or anything. You just take them out and put them in your pan. That's it. All set to go. And then let's stir all of this up. Now I'm going to increase my heat a little bit because I can afford it. These have to go for, we're going to say 5 minutes. I might cheat on that a little bit. Okay. Set that aside too. I'm going to grab another knife. And while that's going on, I'm just going to cut some of these tortillas into strips. You just want to keep your eye on this. You don't want this to scorch. You do want to get these onions cooked enough so that they're nice and translucent. Okay, then these guys can just be cut in strips. You can either use kitchen scissors for these or a knife. I'm going to lay these right into the soup. It's starting to smell very spicy in here. Okay. And then what I like to do is take the shorter ones and set them aside. And the longer ones, I'm just going to cut in half so they fit nicely into my bowl. Okay, set those over there on top of my other tortillas. And those are all set. Okay, now I think this is looking pretty good here. Now I've got my spices already measured, and what I've got here is a teaspoon of kosher salt, teaspoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of lemon pepper, and then a teaspoon of chili powder, a teaspoon of cumin. I'm going to put these, dump all of that in and stir that around. 30 seconds or so. And then I'm going to quickly add in a teaspoon of sambal. More heat, more smoke. Delicious. Okay. Now we've got something really going on here. This would make me start coughing. This smells so good though. Okay, now I have a 15 and a half ounce can of Rega tomatoes. They're whole Italian tomatoes in their sauce. All of it goes in. No draining, the entire thing. And this is your opportunity now. Quite a stack of stuff over here. This is your opportunity to break these tomatoes up a little bit. And we can see that things are starting to calm down.
Can you bring the pot over a little bit more?
Sure. As a matter of fact, I think I'm pretty much done with this. So let me just move this. There we go. How's that? If you think of it now, we've got a lot of seasoning in here. I'm just going to take the time to break up these tomatoes so I don't have to worry about it later. I like them, and you know, I'm not going to bother with chopping them up because it's very easy to break them up, and they'll do some of that on their own as they're cooking. Okay, let's stir in. This is 2 cups. I've already combined them. 2 cups of chicken sauce, 2 cups of beef stock. Put that in. So combination. And I find it's a lot. It has a lot more interest to it than just using straight chicken stock. And look at the color of that broth is tomatoey, and it's a little bit on the brown side, so it's definitely got a lot of character. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do is add some Worcestershire sauce, and make sure you shake that up. I always try to open it and then I remember to shake it, but make sure you shake it up because it really does settle as it sits. And this is going to add a really nice background, kind of a mysterious flavor. You won't taste it as Worcestershire sauce at all. Just enough in there to really give the base of this a lot more character. Okay, then we're going to stir that up. Okay, now this is going to simmer uncovered for 45 minutes. If you tasted it right now, it would be not have a lot of character. It would be almost bland. I mean, you taste all the seasoning, but that 45 minutes is going to let it cook down a little bit, and it's going to develop a lot of character. We're not going to add the chicken until after the 45 minutes, and we're going to cook it uncovered, simmered, not boiling, simmered, so that it cooks down. And I have some already done, so I'm going to switch this out. So this cooked down quite a bit, as you can see. I'm going to bring this, sorry about that sound, quickly up to a boil here, and then I'll take it down to a simmer and we'll add in our chicken. You can see how thick that got from cooking down like that. So it's got a lot of almost a stew-like quality to it. It's a thin broth soup, but it has a lot of texture to it. You can see my tomatoes and also the onions. The tomatoes are mostly broken up, It really turned into the sauce. There's a piece right there. As soon as I see some bubbling, we'll add in our chicken breasts. Now the chicken breasts I cubed up. I say bite-sized in the recipe, so what I did with these was I removed any fat pieces that I saw that were bothering me, and there were a few, and then I cut them into bite-sized pieces like this, and I like them not to be too big. You don't want anyone to be tempted to go and get a knife. You want them to be something they can easily pick up in their spoon and eat. Okay, this is already simmering, boiling. Turn it down a little bit. These are 2 pretty large chicken breasts. So we're gonna have a lot of chicken here. Great. Stir that up. Now, I don't want any more of this to cook off, any more of my stock to cook off. So what I'm gonna do is make sure this is at a nice simmer. And then I'm gonna cover it. So we're not cooking it down anymore. And I usually let this go for about 15 minutes. That's not really because, I'm worried about my chicken being done. That's just to let those flavors meld, let the chicken work its way into the sauce of the soup. Yeah, that's going nicely. Okay, while that's happening, and I might cheat on that time a little bit, but I can take a couple of questions.
What is a chipotle pepper?
A chipotle pepper is a dried and smoked jalapeno. And I've read different things about how they exactly do that, whether they're smoking it and it's drying as it's smoking, or they dry it first and then they smoke it. So there are different techniques, but that's what it is. It's a jalapeno pepper that's been dried and smoked. Now, you can buy them or you can make your own, that are just smoked, and it's just the pepper. What we were using, or are using, is a chipotle pepper in adobo sauce. And adobo sauce is a vinegar paprika sauce, so it doesn't just apply to peppers. It can be used for meats, and they use it for a lot of different things, and there are many, many versions of recipes depending on what part of Mexico you're in. And then, of course, they also have a version of it with a slightly different name in Portugal and in Spain. So this canned variety is in a lot of recipes. As you're researching Mexican recipes, it's used quite a bit. So it's a very normal thing to do, in the canned version is what we can get here in the States. That's what it is. Surprising, isn't it?
What's in Worcestershire sauce?
What's in Worcestershire? I can't say that. Worcestershire sauce. It is a mix of. There are different recipes for it. It was actually developed in the early 1800s by Lee and Perrin. That brand is still around. And the way it was developed is that they were trying to make a sauce that was used for savory things. And they didn't like what they were getting, so they put it in the basement, and it fermented. And that's what modern day Worcestershire sauce is. But what the base is, that was the question, is molasses and vinegar and tamarind and anchovies. And there are vegan versions of it without anchovies, but the original recipe has anchovies. So if you are vegan, just note that that would be an issue unless you find a vegan Worcestershire sauce. But that's what it is. And then in addition to that, depending on the recipe, there'll be onion and garlic and other things added to it. But the molasses and the vinegar and the tamarind and anchovies are the base. And I like adding it into things, not as, I don't use it as a sauce on steak or that type of thing. I like adding it into soups and things to just add this kind of depth of mysterious flavor. Did that answer that?
It did.
Okay.
That's all I got for now.
That's all I have for now. Let's see how this is doing. Great. The main thing about this is I want to make sure that the chicken is cooked. So I'm going to give this just another minute. because it doesn't take really long to cook the chicken. It's just a question of getting the flavors to meld. And then what I've got for garnishes is I have some cilantro and some limes that I cut up because it's really nice to just squeeze some lime juice over the top of this. And I have some Monterey Jack cheese. We have been very unsuccessful with avocados lately, so we do not have any fresh avocado, but if you do have good avocados, sliced avocado on top is absolutely delicious because it really balances that heat in here. Another thing, if you wanted to do something else that was cool, sour cream would be good, or a little queso fresco, a little cheese on top would be nice as well. Let me grab my plate. Okay. Now the only thing that I would say with this in terms of, yeah, and you can see that chicken is totally cooked, so no worries about that. What did I start to say? I just lost my train of thought. Uh-oh. Okay. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I want to taste this. The only adjustment I have ever made on this soup is salt. And it's perfect. So good. Has a real heat to it, but it dissipates right away. And I'll tell you, once we put the garnishes and these corn tortillas in it, it's going to be fabulous. So let me just plate this up. This particular plate, I think, was made for this soup. Just looks so pretty in it, even though the plate is Italian, but still looks great with a Mexican soup. Get a little more chicken. Gorgeous. Okay. I usually put like the lime just on the side like that, so it's nice to have a rim plate and a little cheese over the top and some cilantro leaves. I like to leave those whole. Use as much or as little as you like. And again, if you had avocado, you could put that on, dollop of sour cream. But the one thing that you cannot skip is the tortilla strips. We just set those on the side like that. And then have the plate of the strips close by because people always want more. And there you have it. Beautiful tortilla soup. Dinner. Any other questions come in?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sign off here and go to the Zoom call. I hope you make this soup. It is so delightful, and it's perfect any time of year, really. But when the weather's just a little off, it's a great soup because it has its own heat. So I'll see you on Zoom. Take care, everybody. Bye, Cooking Club. Mwah.